Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm going to talk today about an article that's appeared in the news, and it says where the U.S. tried to hack the North Koreans' nuclear weapons program. So they hacked North Korea's nuclear weapons program. The hack failed, although I don't blame the United States for trying to do that, okay? And the United States was not the aggressors in all this. Let me explain, okay? First, okay, a lot of explanations, but first, okay, when President Obama got elected in 2008, and when he got inaugurated in January 2009, he offered to negotiate and meet with North Korea when North Korea told him no. So President Obama extended his hand and North Korea slapped it away. Basically, that's what happened. And before that, okay, when Bush 43 was president, he offered to give North Korea conventional electricity, which would have gave North Korea electricity very quickly. Unlike the LWRs, the light water reactors. The light water reactors take 5 to 10 years to develop electricity. But North Korea said, no, we want our light water reactors. Well, the light water reactors can also develop nuclear weapons. And when North Korea tests their nuclear weapons, they always test it usually on July 4th, America's Independence Day, or May 25th, America's Memorial Day. A lot of times they do that. And Victor Cha really talks about that in his book, The Impossible State, talking about North Korea. And North Korea does that, okay? Then before that, okay, we'll go to before that, okay? In 1976, the U.S. and South Korea were cutting down a tree on their side of the border near the DMZ, the demilitarized zone. But what North Korea did was this is very sick and disgusting, and it's very sad, but what they did was they drugged 2 U.S. soldiers, Captain Arthur Boniface and First Lieutenant Mark Barrett. They drugged 2 U.S. soldiers to the North Korean side of the DMZ, and they hacked and bludgeoned those 2 U.S. soldiers to death. So that happened as well, okay? Then also in the 1960s, okay, when the DMZ was separated by nothing more than a thing of tape, what North Korea would do was move the tape to their advantage. So that way they could move the tape to their advantage, shoot at the U.S. and South Korean soldiers and say, they were on our side, so we shot in self-defense. They framed the U.S. and South Korea many times during the 1960s for things like that. Many U.S. soldiers who patrolled the DMZ during that time have testified to that. Okay, that happened. Then the other thing that happened was before the Korean War, many North Korean infiltrators were caught inside South Korea, and many North Korean spies were caught inside South Korea. And then also they framed South Korea. What they did was on June 25th, 1950, they attacked a small attacking force of North Koreans attacked South Korea. South Korea followed these North Koreans into North Korea. Then North Korea launched their main assault force. Very sick and disgusting, but they did that. Unfortunately, they did that. They also recently, in the early 2000s, they've abducted many South Koreans, particularly South Korean fishermen along the North-South Korean border. What they would do is they would take these South Koreans to spy school, and what they would do is they would get the South Korean fishermen to teach North Korean spies the South Korean culture and also the South Korean dialect of the Korean language. Well, one of these fishermen was deemed ideologically impure, so he was banished to the countryside. And what he saw on the countryside was very sick and disgusting. What he saw was many North Koreans, because they were so hungry, they were boiling their own babies and eating them. They were so hungry. Also, in some areas of the country where they have very little food, what the little porridge they have, they'll mix it with bark just to try to get to make the porridge last longer. Sad state of affairs. Okay, and let's go back to, we'll go to 1994 when President Clinton offered to give North Korea electricity through light water reactors. Well, after the light water reactors were given, North Korea wasn't using them to make electricity, they were using them to make nuclear weapons. And that's why the U.S., South Korea, and Japan offered to try to purchase the light water reactors. Also, let's go to the argument that North Korea says we need these weapons for defensive purposes. No, they don't. Okay? In Victor Cha's book, The Impossible State, he talks about where North Korea has a lot of artillery along the DMZ, the demilitarized zone. A lot of that artillery is laced with a lot of chemical weapons. And that artillery and chemical weapons can wreak havoc on Seoul, South Korea's capital. So they don't need nuclear weapons for defense purposes. Just doesn't compute. They don't need them for defense purposes. Now, with that being said, it's just, and also he notes in the book that the U.S. and South Korea would win the war, but it would be very costly and cost a lot of lives. So that the U.S. and South Korea would not risk major war unless they had a reason in doing so. It would cost, I'm not going to get to the figures because, this is just, it's a different argument for a different video. But what the video is going to focus on is that the U.S. was justified in hacking into North Korea's nuclear weapons program. The weapons were not used for defense mechanism purposes. North Korea has provoked the United States on many occasions. Okay? And the reason I'm not going to get into figures is how much it would cost is because there's a lot of opinions now with the economic situation in the United States. People could, just use this video for different purposes than what it's being. And it's designed to, show that the Americans were innocent in this case and the North Koreans were guilty, which was in a lot of cases. Like prime example in the Korean War, this involved South and North Korea, but when, at the time the Korean War, Koreans were so hungry, they didn't know the ruthlessness behind communism. All they saw was free and immediate food, is what they thought. When North Koreans got to Seoul, many people in Seoul welcomed the North Koreans, but not for long. At least 25,000 South Koreans were massacred over a 3-month period when North Korea controlled Seoul during the Korean War. Sad state of affairs. So yeah. The war with North Korea, United States, and South Korea. The United States and South Korea, I believe, would win. Victor Chai, who's an expert in North Korea, believes that too. But it would be very costly. So what that does show is that the United States would not be doing something like that unless they had an extreme reason in doing so. Common sense logic right there. Anyways, hope everybody's doing well. Take care. God bless and bye-bye. Bye-bye.